W at this junction in time would be better without Caitlin Clark because she is a bigger distraction than she is an additive. Caitlin Clark has gotten the WNBA over the necessary threshold they needed. Now people are watching. Now we realize, oh, there's talent in the W. Talent that's actually even greater than Caitlin Clark. And I'm not just talking about bigs like Asia. I'm talking about the Olivia Miles. I'm talking about the Paige Beckers. Hell, I'm talking about the Kelsey Mitchells. Caitlin got the necessary eyes there. But now that the eyes are there, we don't necessarily need her anymore. Caitlin did what only Caitlin could do, and we don't necessarily need her to do anymore. Thank you, Caitlin. We can take it from here. Now you're saying that the WNBA needs to be cognizant of where they put Caitlin Clark on posters. The WNBA and the officials need to alter the rules for Caitlin Clark. The WNBA and opposing players need to treat Caitlin Clark more gently. Caitlin Clark's coach needs to be cognizant of how she talks to her in public because it's going to look like there's an issue. Unless we can take off our gloves for Caitlin Clark and stop trying to act like she's a messiah, the WNBA could and would be better off without Caitlin Clark, at least without this version of everybody coddling and caressing Caitlin Clark.
Okay, so first off, I don't know him personally. He could be a WNBA analyst, don't know him, don't know anything he's come from. I don't know much about the WNBA, but I barely know much about the NBA. I know about the famous names, LeBron James, Michael Jordan, whatnot. But one thing I do know for sure is nobody gave a damn, no American gave a damn about the WNBA until Caitlin Clark came along. Heck, the WNBA was being funded by the NBA just to stay afloat. The WNBA couldn't even fund itself. That's how much no one cared about it. So you've got this white woman that's come along in a black sport and she's pretty much dominated the sport. She just so happens to be white in a predominantly black game and she just happens to be one of the best. So what that's naturally done, it's now made a load of white eyeballs pay attention. And there's nothing wrong with that because one thing that I've always said, I've said it time and time again on my channel, human beings invest in things that they can see themselves in. Human beings invest in things that they can see themselves in. I'll say it one more time for the people in the back. Human beings invest in things that they can see themselves in. It's natural for hyenas to want to go roll with hyenas. It's natural for lions to want to go roll with lions, seagulls with seagulls, hippos with hippos. You naturally warm to what you look like. I'm not saying you can't warm to other races and other things. I'm just saying you naturally first have an innate thought to pay attention to imagery that looks like you. So yes, has there been an influx of white people now paying attention because this white woman's now doing a thing? And as this female part of the sport now blown up to where they're now getting advertisements and branding? Great. You know, this is what's supposed to happen. The only problem is, and I can understand from a black woman's point of view, especially a black female fan who's followed the WNBA when no one else was, or even just the players. Let's just go with the black female players. Nobody cared about you until this white woman came along and now everybody's paying attention. I can understand why that might be a bit of a hurt because it's like the rest of us are now getting a bit of exposure, but it took a white woman to come in for people to pay attention. You got to understand, we all have a racial bias. We all have a racial bias. Every single person on the planet has some form of racial bias, as well as every single person on the planet is bigoted in some form of way. Your bigotry might not be excessive, like those people that want to overtly say horrible things like to people in the public. It might just be something that you say private between, you and your close friends and loved ones. You might say something derogatory about somebody. Saying things in private is natural, but we're all bigots. And I'm not upset that white people have suddenly paid attention that a white woman has been in the game and now they want to now invest in that game. Because what it shows is where a lot of black people didn't invest, white people are, it's now being shown as something of an additional sport that people now want to pay attention to other than the male sports, the male side of things. To then listen to this individual say, we need to now throw her away and now start paying attention to other players that are potentially better than her. I understand we should be celebrating other players, regardless of what race they are, whether they're Mexican, black, whatnot. If there's no exposure, if Caitlin Clark has now brought exposure to this game, then all the other people that are just as good as her, if not better, need to get the same level of exposure. However, if it doesn't go that way, That's not Caitlin Clark's fault. That's the fault of black people not getting behind black female talents the way white people are getting behind this white talent. I've always said in the West, white people are the populace. They are always going to pay attention more to themselves. If there was anybody back then when Michael Jordan was playing that was white and could play at the same level as Michael Jordan, you best believe white people would have promoted that white player over Michael Jordan. Right now, Michael Jordan is known as the best player of all time. There's an argument between him and LeBron James. The argument at the moment is between two black men. If there was a white man involved in that at the same levels as LeBron or Michael Jordan, white people would have made sure that he would have been promoted the most. Because it's all about self-esteem. It's all about what you can visually see. Everybody gets behind what they look like. I don't call it racism. I just call it human nature. That's just the way human beings are. That's the way they're going to stay. So him turning around saying, you don't necessarily need her, you don't necessarily need to coddle her, you kind of do, because I've only seen clips. I'm not going to make out like I've just sat there and watched the whole WNBA game, but I've seen the brutality that this woman has been getting. They've been at this woman. Let me see if I can get some clips up. Look. Just look at the abuse.
I mean, Caitlin to the ground, and ooh, that's a...
Just look at the abuse.
The neck, and then listen to... I mean, Caitlin to the ground, and ooh, that's a...
Now, don't get me wrong. We've seen worse in the men's game, especially from the Michael Jordan Chicago Bulls era. That was brutal, what was going on back then. But the game's evolved now. Yeah, you don't really get things like this anymore. You get fouls, but you don't really get just outright just elbows and all of that aggressive stuff. And I'm talking about the men's side of things tightened up a bit on the fouls and injuries and whatnot and trying to deliberately injure people to stop them advancing. The women's sport, you've got this in, and you can tell it's an attack. But I understand it from both sides. I understand where you've got the black female athletes thinking nobody cared until this girl came along. I appreciate all the additional branding, but you mean it took a white woman who's good for people to pay attention? I can understand the upset. But at the same time, I understand that human beings naturally warm to what they look like. So yeah, a bunch of white faces are now going to pay attention to that this white girl is now doing all these amazing things. That's human nature. The old school legacy way used to call it target audience. I don't like saying that term target audience because people don't really pay attention when you say it. I call it human beings investing in things that they can see themselves in. Relativity. Yeah, there's a bunch of little white girls that are now going to suddenly pay attention to the WNBA because there's a white woman in it doing her thing. She's doing her thing. She's getting the shots off. She's doing what she's doing, and they're going to now pay attention. It's very hard for little white girls to look up to a black woman. No one wants to say it, but it should be said, and it shouldn't be said as if it's a diss towards black women. We should just understand how human beings work. It's very hard for a little white girl to aspire to be in a sport when a black woman's leading it because she's looking at that woman and going, well, I can't be like that because she's black. Do you know how hard it was for white women to get behind Serena Williams? Not only that, Serena Williams was built like she was hench. She was muscular. Them skinny little white women were like, I can't get behind that. Serena Williams, unfortunately, wasn't the best aesthetic. These are the uncomfortable conversations nobody wants to have. She wasn't the best aesthetic to be the face of it because she'll be great for little black girls to get behind into tennis. But let's be real, black females ain't trying to get into tennis in mass. That's a white person's game. Overall, it's like an Italian and French and all of those people's games, but it's overall a Caucasian person's game. It ain't a black person's game, tennis. We don't get behind tennis like that. We barely even watch Wimbledon. But Serena was the face and a sister, and black women as a collective still didn't get really behind it. You know, it was white women that were getting behind it, and, you know, they had to brand Serena Williams because she was the best. But let's be real, if Serena Williams was a white woman, she would have been 4 or 5 times worth more than what she was in her career. And she had an illustrious career. It just is what it is. Let's not get upset, you know. But one thing is for sure, this white lady, Caitlin Clark, is being targeted for simply being white and good at the game. Yes, I would like the black players that are just as good as her to get the same exposure and notice, but unfortunately, that's going to take for black people to start paying attention to the game. It's not a white person's job to pay attention. It's not. The white people are now paying attention to the WNBA because Caitlin Clark's the face of it. If you're upset, if you're black and you're upset with Caitlin Clark being the face of it, then you get behind Angel Reese. That's the name. You get behind her. You get behind the other black players. You show them that we're not going to just allow you to pay attention to this woman because she looks like the populace, because she looks like you now want to pay attention. No, there's players that can play just as good as her, you know? You can even look at the other girl, this girl here, Sophie Cunningham. Is that her name? All of a sudden, she's gone viral for literally pointing in a game. She went viral for this. Now, correct me if I'm wrong, what are we known for as black people, especially our black women? Black women, sass, shake the head to the left and the right. Excuse me, very cliche, typical things that some people diss us for and some people praise us for. Black women have been doing that from day one. But Sophie Cunningham does it, and look, she's now become viral. She's now basically the second popular face of the WNBA for simply pointing. And she's now become a viral sensation. So now you've got Caitlin Clark and Sophie Cunningham, the two faces of the WNBA. Not Sophie Cunningham is still fresh, her virality. But nevertheless, white folks have got behind Caitlin Clark and they're going to get behind her. For what? Simply pointing. I'm not going to turn around and say that she's not good at what she does. I'm not going to turn around and say that. But her doing this to the opposition, yeah, she went viral for simply pointing. Now my timeline is full of this woman. People saying they hate her because she's white and pretty. They hate her because she's white and pretty. You know, people always want to make it racist. Me, I'm not here to make it racist. I'm here to talk about the obvious, but I'm not interested in making it racist. I just like to show the honesty. You know, not everything has to be malicious. You know, it is what it is. Two white women, the face of the WNBA. I just hope that it transitions into not just them getting brand deals and better contracts. As long as the whole WNBA gets it, no black person can complain. Yeah? If Caitlin Clark is getting beat down every time she gets on the court, why the hell would any black person care if you're getting branding deals from it? I don't want Caitlin Clark to be injured. Of course not. I don't want to see that crap. But the disconnect is when if she's only getting brand deals and the rest of the WNBA is suffering, which I'm hearing a lot of these black females now that are NBA stars are getting a look in. They're now making a decent earning. I've said enough. Like and subscribe. Let me know what you guys think.